Painting 28mm miniatures to a level. But what are the levels and how do you achieve them? It's coming right up in today's Wonders Off discussion. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, today I want to have a chilled, relaxed chat about painting at different skill levels. Before that though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so today I want to chat about painting at different skill levels. Now this can be because you want to paint at a different level or because you can paint at a different level. So first of all, I suppose what we need to do is discuss the skill levels themselves. What are they? Okay, so what I've done is I've categorized the different levels into 5 categories. I think that's a reasonable amount and I think it sort of covers the ground quite well. So let's run over my 5 categories, and if you agree with me, put some comments down below. If you don't agree with me, let me know what other categories you think I should have included, and maybe let me know which category you think you paint at. Okay, so these are the 5 categories which I've come up with. Now you'll probably notice a lot of people talking about tabletop quality. Now we're going to discuss exactly what tabletop quality is in a second, but I'm just using that as the boundaries for my levels. So at level 1 we've got below tabletop quality, at level 2 we've got tabletop quality, at level 3 we've got above tabletop quality, at level 4 we've got display cabinet quality, and level 5 I can only really classify as golden demon quality. So that's my 5 levels that I like to look at. Now of course I'm sure you could come up with some more, but I think if you have too many it could be difficult for you to see where you are amongst those levels. So now we know what the levels of quality are, what we need to do is find out where we sit in those levels, because the idea is to try and step up our game to improve our quality. So below tabletop standard, there's quite a big bracket of what that could be. That could be from anything from someone just slapping on the paint, it goes everywhere, job done, below tabletop standard, and then going all the way up to doing some very nice neat painting of just one block colour. So you might have, say, red armour and then say a yellow helmet and then a black gun. No washes, no highlights, just a bog standard coat of paint. Now for me, that's what I would call below tabletop quality, and that would be my first category for that type of painting. And as I said, there's quite a big gap there between the bottom end and the top end of that category. So if you're at the bottom end of that category, your best bet is to try to get to the top end before maybe you move into the next category. And the next category is painting to a tabletop level. Want a channel to learn how to paint to tabletop or above tabletop level? Check out the WARHAMMER just there. Awesome painting tutorials on that channel. Now everyone has their own idea of what tabletop level is. Indeed, my below tabletop level could be somebody else's tabletop level. But for me, tabletop quality is doing a nice neat base coat, washing that base coat, and then doing some highlights. The highlights can be quite basic, maybe even just a dry brush, but that for me would be a tabletop quality. Now I know some people would say you don't even have to highlight to be tabletop quality. Base coat and a wash and job done. Well, that's probably true, but I set my boundaries to a base coat, a wash, and then at least a dry brush highlight, if not a little bit of edge highlighting. And I think any army that's done to that standard will look very nice on the table. Certainly good enough to go into any tournament, any gaming club, or just playing with your friends, and everyone would be happy. Now, the next step up is above tabletop level, and that basically entails adding the extra details to those models. So I mentioned doing an edge highlight on the previous level. Well, in above tabletop level, for me that would be doing an edge highlight of maybe 2 or 3 highlight steps, possibly adding more detail to the base, taking all of the details of the model, that's one step more. Maybe taking the highlights not just to edge highlighting, but maybe doing some blending, some wet blending or dry blending, etc. Something which really makes those models stand out above the norm. For me, that would be above tabletop quality. Now, going one step further to that, you then have your display quality. Now, the difference between a display quality and an above tabletop quality can be quite minute, but it could be things like adding freehand to your models. Maybe not just washing the whole of the armour, but maybe doing washes in the recesses only. Maybe adding different colours to that wash rather than just washing with one colour. Make those shadows really deepen. You might even start basing your model into a more scenic base, or possibly even a mini diorama. And for me, that would be a display piece. Now, right at the top of the scale, we have what I've classed as Golden Demon. I think everyone knows that's a pretty high standard. That's where you use techniques which really do take quite a lot of time. Things like glazing your model to build up the highlights. So now we know what our categories are. What we need to do now is work out whereabouts we are in those categories. Now, personally, I would say I'm generally in above tabletop level painting. I am aspiring to do more showcase pieces, and I hope to one day to be able to paint to that real extreme high level of Golden Demon painting. But you do need to take it one step at a time, and this is why I like this 5-stage category. So if you're currently painting, for example, let's say at tabletop level, so you're currently base coating your model, you're washing it, and then you're doing a few dry brush or basic highlights to the model. Now, that's a great place to be. However, if you really wanted to improve your painting, then you need to look at, well, how can I go above tabletop level? And that's where you can look at maybe doing extra highlights. So maybe you could start introducing more highlights to the model. If you're already dry brushing, maybe you could go into edge highlighting. If you're already edge highlighting, maybe you could go into more layers of edge highlighting. Maybe do something more with the base, because basing is also very important with our models. It actually takes you to the next level quite quickly by having a better base. But my biggest piece of advice is don't try to go up the ladder as such of these 5 stages too quickly. So if you're currently painting at tabletop quality, I wouldn't necessarily aim for Golden Demon or display quality in one foul swoop. Gradually move up the categories as you paint. Now, of course, because you can paint at a certain level doesn't mean that you have to paint at that particular level, and that is what I want to talk about next. Before that though, what I want to do is direct you to a series of videos that I've made. It's called the Back to Basics series, and I run right through everything regarding painting your models. I even include clipping the models off, taking the mould lines off. I cover green stuff, magnets, and then I move on to edge highlighting, blending, wet blending, feathering, the whole lot. I do decals, freehand. It's a great series of videos. If you haven't seen it yet, then check it out just there. Okay, so let's talk about choosing the level that you want to paint at. Okay, so let's assume that you can paint at all 5 of those levels. Does that mean that you always have to paint to above tabletop standard or even Golden Demon standard? Not at all. In actual fact, this is what you need to do before you start painting your project. You need to work out, what level am I going to paint this project to? Now, for me, this is very, very important, especially when it comes to painting an army. Because when you paint an army, in most cases, you're pretty committed to painting to that particular level for quite a long period of time. So for example, with my Necron army, which I started many years ago, if I add models to that army now, and hopefully with the Games Workshop release, we will get some more Necron models.
Necrons!
But I'm going to be painting those to the same sort of standard as I was doing when I first started. That was many years ago, and that's where I'm talking about picking the standard that you want to paint at. Now, of course, it does depend on how many models you're going to be painting for the army and which level you want those models to be at. Now, it's quite possible to have an army project where you have different levels in it. So, for example, if you were painting Tyranids, you might have all of the Gants, all of the little bugs at tabletop level, and you might have the medium and the bigger bugs at above tabletop level. The army can still look good together, but you do have a nice mixture of qualities depending on the models. So there is no harm in having different levels within an army, but you do have to really sort of set your levels at the beginning. So you might say, okay, all of my characters I'm going to paint to display quality or above tabletop quality. The rest of the army are just going to be tabletop quality. Are you looking for a channel to teach you how to paint to above tabletop level or display level? Check out Vince Venturella's channel just there. Awesome painting channel. As long as you have a system in place, then that really sets you in a good place, because if you don't have that system, you will get a mismatch of different painting levels, and that can make the army look a little bit odd. Now, of course, you may not necessarily have the time to paint to a particular level, and time has a massive impact on our painting skills. So if you only get a certain amount of time to paint in a week, and you're painting to a particular deadline, then you have to work out how many hours you can allocate per model, and that may mean dropping your quality down to match the hours you can put in to get the project finished. Now, on the other side of the coin, of course, as we paint we get better. Now, I've experienced this personally for my Eldar army. Now, my Eldar army I painted to the absolute best of my abilities. I thought I was painting way above tabletop level, even possibly showcase level, but as the years have gone on and as my painting skills have gone on, I now realise that my Eldar are probably only tabletop quality. And I'm sure that if I started painting my Eldar army now, I would be able to get them to a much higher level. Having said that, because my army is about 70% painted at the moment, now that I add models to it, I have to paint to a standard which at least looks and feels the same way. Now, it can be quite nice with Eldar in particular because of the aspect warriors. The aspect warriors I can paint in a different level and it still matches the army. But if I was going to paint one of the main craft world colours, which is basically purple, I feel like I've just got to match that purple to how the purple was when I first started painting. Not necessarily my highest quality, but at least matching into the army. And that is something which you have to take into consideration as well. Now, of course, not everyone feels like this. Some people don't mind having different levels of quality within their army. Indeed, they might buy some models from eBay that are already painted and they just pop them in their army. You know, people are different. I personally am quite a fussy person. I'm the person back in the day when we used to buy CDs. Do you remember those? You buy a CD and it's got a big scratch on the front of the cover. I hated that. Went straight back. Can I have a new case, please? Right, now I want to talk about how to actually improve your painting. Okay, so we've discussed painting to a particular level for certain projects, and that could be determined upon A, your painting ability, B, how much time you've got to paint that project, and C, what you actually want to get from the project. But I'm sure most of us would like to paint to a better standard than we actually do at the moment. So how do you get better? Okay, so we've talked about picking our painting level for a particular project, and that could be determined upon how much time we want to put into the project and what we want to achieve from the project at the end. However, it's fair to say that pretty much all of us, well, all of us at least that like to paint, would like to paint to a higher level. So how do you go about doing that? Well, I think the best way to paint to a higher level is to paint in smaller numbers. Now, personally, I do like batch painting. I'm quite happy to paint 20 or 30 miniatures in one go. However, what I have noticed is as my abilities or skill level has gone up, I'm finding it more difficult to batch paint in those bigger numbers because you've got to put more time into each individual model. Are you looking for a channel to teach you how to paint to display quality or golden demon quality? Check out Cujo Painting's channel just there. This is currently my most favourite painting channel of all time. He does some amazing tutorials and he does some amazing painting. Check it out. He is my inspiration at the moment. So when you're painting to that higher level, that would definitely be one of my biggest bits of advice, would be to paint in smaller unit sizes, maybe a maximum of 5 guys. I found when I was painting my Space Wolves and I was doing my Wolven, painting them in units of 5 was quite a nice number. I was able to put the amount of hours in the batch painting manner, but still paint them to a high level. However, you may not be painting at that higher level at this moment in time. Maybe you're painting at below tabletop level or even tabletop level. But my best tip for you guys to help improve your painting is to try and paint as neatly as you can on those base coats. The base coat is so important. Do 2 or 3 thin layers of paint. Make sure your paint is nice and thin. Get the paint on as neat as you can. Try to just paint within the area that you actually want the paint to go on. Yes, I know you can just slap it on and maybe go back over with another coat just to tidy it up, but ultimately if you can just paint that area, you're building up your motor skills to painting neatly, and it's very, very important. If you can get that neat base coat down, once you start putting your washes on and your highlights, you're really in a good place. So that would be my biggest piece of advice for getting your painting levels up, is to paint really, really neatly on your base coats. Now, one other thing that I do want to try and get you to do is to enter painting competitions, and that's for any painting level that you're at. It's worth having a go at doing painting competitions. Now, you may not necessarily win anything, but what you can do is you can get some great feedback from everyone in the painting competition, sometimes from the judges, and also you can get quite inspired by all the other work that's there. And that can include maybe conversion ideas as well for the future. And that day that you actually do end up placing, maybe 3rd place or 2nd place, that can really help give you a confidence boost and push you further to improve your skills. So definitely I would recommend entering as many painting competitions as you can. Right, okay, so finally, what about all of those people that just don't like painting? Okay, so if you don't like painting, what could you do? Now, of course, you could just play with unpainted miniatures, but I think one of the good ways of motivating yourself to paint your army is to only play with painted models. Now, you can quite easily get a coat of paint on your models, even if it's just a spray can of the colour that you want your army to be. So if it's ultramarines, you just go out, buy a blue paint and spray them up. Once you've done that, all you've got to do is go in and paint the gun and maybe some of the other little detailing. You could even just give it a wash over. It really doesn't take much to get an army, at least with some paint on it, ready for gaming. And if you have that little rule, you can't play it until it's painted, that can really help you get your army painted quickly. Now, I do already have a video about playing with unpainted miniatures. You can check that video out just there if you're interested. In the meantime, let's get some conversation going on this video. What level of painting do you prefer to paint at? How many hours per model would you say is about right for your painting level? Do you think that you would ever be able to paint at Golden Demon level? And if you are a Golden Demon painter and you're watching this video, then how did you get to that Golden Demon level? Let's continue the discussion below. Beam me up.